Okay, this week Goliath had two news releases. I think it was just a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago that they announced that they've started their drill program up at the Gold Digger project at Surebet. Okay, and yep, they hit the ground running. They basically drilled one of the, we'll call it the most aggressive drill holes that has been drilled on the, well, it would be the most aggressive drill hole. How about that? It is hands down the most aggressive drill hole drilled on the property to date. And why did they drill it? Well, because they did very careful modeling over the winter months, the off-season months, to look at the high grade zone or area around Golden Gate and Bonanza that started to emerge over the past season and a half, and they really picked it apart. They put the structure together in a very cohesive picture, all of these loads and stuff, and then they came up with a really interesting target. And they wanted to test it, and man, did they hit! Okay, this is really exciting stuff. So they have hit a very robust zone. Starts about 650 meters down the hole. So, and the hole is fairly steep. So it's more or less at 650 meters vertically below the drill collar. But interestingly, it's above the valley floor. Okay, it's above the valley floor. So it's still like, it would be accessible from the side of the mountain. All right, but they hit what they have deemed the mothership feeder zone, MFZ for short, which contains abundant visible gold. And yes, the mothership is a razz on my commentary. I guess they felt my use of mothership maybe justified the name. But anyway, big VG intercept. Okay, this is not a little deal. It's actually in the vicinity of a drill hole completed last year, where they hit 9 meters, I think, of 32 grams per ton. Now this is a bit deeper. Okay, it's actually a bit deeper, and it does appear to be like major structural, potentially feeder type structure to the system. Very, very interesting stuff. Now, also in this hole, they hit a porphyritic intrusion. Okay, now, without going off into geology babble, okay, there has been great debate about how this deposit formed ever since it was discovered. Some people say, it's an orogenic gold system, and it does have some hallmarks of an orogenic system. But then they have a student at the Colorado School of Mines, KSERM again, the same group that I'm working with here, who's done some really, really, really good science. Okay, and in fact has dated the mineralization, like age dated the mineral. It is completely different than anybody would assume for this region. Okay, it's coming back quite a bit younger. Not sure the company wants to fully disclose all the details yet because it is a bit of a proprietary thing, we would say. But what they've basically found is there's a direct link between an intrusion that's generated this mineralization. Okay, that is pretty dang cool. In this drill hole, they hit porphyritic intrusion, so we know it's right there. This is a tangible evidence that the intrusion is there. They also hit a lot of what sound a bit esoteric, but molybdenite, which is molybdenum. It's a molybdenum mineral. Moly is an element. Okay, molybdenum is an element, and they've also hit bismuth. Bismuth is another element. It's another metal in the periodic table. Okay, and moly and bismuth are very, very closely associated with intrusions. Okay, so the presence of these in abundance suggests that we are close to the mothership, hence the name. Go to the next slide. Okay, the company put together this diagram, fully schematic. I mean, this is just, a stab in the dark, but it gives you a sense of what they're working with. Okay, so first of all, we can see the profile of the mountain there. It is pretty steep terrain. They found the Surebet zone, the upper Surebet, basically by scaling the mountain up there with rock climbers. And since that time, they've drilled not only the Surebet zone and the lower Surebet zone, they've also recently found the Bonanza and the Golden Gate zones. Okay, but this new hole, 235, drilled down and actually tagged a new zone. It could be an extension of Golden Gate. Don't know for sure, but it is a nice, thick intercept with multiple intervals of visible gold. What does it tell us? It probably tells us there's a lot more to explore, even lower, because we're getting closer to that intrusion. But that's kind of where the gold-bearing fluids probably originated. So this is probably going to be the first of many holes that have to be drilled down in this regime. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, this model that I've put here is actually the orogenic gold mine. And the reason I pulled it up is because in almost all models that you see on the internet like this, there is often drawn in here magmas that are kind of associated, especially with that deep level in the system. Okay, and I think that this is kind of the regime we're dealing with. I think we've got a magma that, you know, you can see there's two magma chambers there, both feeding magmas up to a shallower level. But I think that's part of this picture. It's just undeniably part of this picture. Does it also have a bit of an orogenic flavor to it? Well, kind of, yes. It's hosted by shear zones, and the fluids appear to have exploited those mega structures. They're very fat structures, okay? So I'm going to say that we're in the regime of that red circle right there. That's kind of the general area where the whole Surebet zone formed. Now you can see depth-wise, we're talking about maybe 15 kilometers below surface. That's quite deep. It's like the polar opposite of, say, Newfound or Fosterville or something like this, where that's epizonal. That's basically shallow. This is deep. Now you say, well, gee, you know, does that mean you can't get good grade down there? No. Actually, you can get very good grades, and actually very consistent grades in this regime. Okay, and the best example I can think of, go to the next slide, is a little deposit called Pogo, which is in Alaska. Okay, now Pogo it's northeast of Fairbanks, kind of in the same general Tintina belt and trend that, say, Fort Knox is in. Okay, so we know not too far away from Pogo, there's already an reduced intrusion hosted gold system, all right, which is really interesting. But here we have a deposit that has yielded a very high-grade mine. Okay, this deposit, you can see down there in the table in the bottom, that's out of Porter Geoscience, references at the bottom. But, you know, we're talking about several million tons of over half an ounce per ton, 18 grams. Okay, in fact, the more updated resource down there, which is 2021, we have 22 million tons of 9.4 grams. Still very good grade. Okay, this is what I think we're starting to see at Surebet, and this, you know, when I say Surebet, I'm talking about the whole enchilada. Okay, I think this is what we're seeing at the Gold Digger project. I'll say that. Okay, now the top two images, those are taken straight from Northern Star, some presentation material they had from a couple of years ago, shortly after they picked up the mine. We're looking down on a bunch of assays, and then the gray patches are basically the block models for the deposit. What you have there, it's a little bit hard to see, but you have kind of a series of lodes, nearly flat lodes that are all kind of stacked on each other. And that's what Pogo is. Okay, I mean, geologically, it's very, very similar, both structurally and genetically, like how it formed compared to Surebet. Okay, now, there is intrusive here as well. At Pogo, they found, you know, intrusions and suspected, you know, magmas that are probably linked to the deposit. So again, very close parallels there. Okay, go to the next slide. Now, the way to think of Pogo, everybody knows I love food. Okay, and food's my best analogy. All right, so the way to think of Pogo is baklava. Okay, think baklava. Okay, this is good. All right, so you in baklava, you got the phyllo paper, right, and it's multi-layered, and then in between, every once in a while, they took a little bit of walnuts in there with honey. Oh, yum! I love baklava. Anyway, you can see, think of the walnut layers as being, we'll call it the gold bearing layers, okay? And then the phyllo paper is what's in between. All right, so that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a baklava. How thick it is, like, is it 2 or 3 layers, or is it 20 layers, or whatever? We don't know yet. But every time they drill a hole a little bit deeper, they find another layer. So it could have a lot more layers to it. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what are the layers? Well, the layers are what we see in the photos here. Okay, so these photos, I won't go into the huge technical dive here, but you can see quartz veining, a bright white material. Sometimes the quartz is banded. There's dark sulfides scattered in some of that quartz. Um, the quartz is basically the material that hosts the gold, the very high grade gold, and they see visible gold. They see little specks here and there scattered through that quartz. It's off. The gold is often associated with the sulfide itself. Okay. So if we're talking baklava, okay, the quartz would be the walnut layers, and then the black material around the quartz veins, that would be the phyllo paper on either side. Okay, but this is absolutely, like, if you told me, oh, those photographs are from the Pogo deposit, I'd be like, yeah, looks like it. Yeah. No, that's Surebet. Okay, or this is the new VG zone they've hit at depth, and they see bismuth and other, like moly and stuff like that in the sulfides in these veins. I am very excited. I can't wait to see what the assays return. Have no idea what it's going to run, but in the photographs they've sent out, a lot of VG. Okay, this is just one. I don't have time to go through them all, so let's go to the next slide. Now, last year, just as a refresher, okay, this was a zone that they hit sometime late in the season, I think it was. And I think they were kind of kicking themselves because they hit it late in the season and they really couldn't follow up on it. So I think that's one of the reasons they wanted to drill 2, 3, 5 straight away, just because this hole is pretty dang good. All right. But this hole hits 9 meters of 32 grams. And you can see way down there at the bottom, tiny print. But again, you can see the quartz veining with the sulfide up in the core rungs at the top. There's some close-ups showing the VG in the middle there. That's that baklava. Again, the white is the walnut layers. Okay, and the black is the phyllo paper on either side. And we're seeing multiple layers of this of the walnuts in these holes. Okay, if the hole that they just announced runs anything like this, I think the company's going to really break out in terms of the understanding about the system, the high grade feeder, the economics of, like, you're going to see this story really start to gain some traction, because you don't see too many discoveries like this, guys, in this day and age. Something that could be a multi-million ounce deposit, could be. I'm not promising anything, is in my opinion, but it's also high grade. It demonstrates it has high grades. Wow. Okay, this is good. Go to the next slide. Okay, on top of that, they announced that they're going to be drilling at Treasure Island. Okay, now over on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see a map showing the Gold Digger project in whatever it is, yellow, I guess that is. And way up there at the top, way far to the north, this has nothing to do with Surebet. It's way far to the north, and it's not too far from the town of Stewart. Okay, so it's closer to that side of well, it's close to the Golden Triangle, or might even be within the Golden Triangle. Anyway, they are seeing really interesting mineralization in that mountain-like thing that you see in the photograph on the left. Okay, that is basically a knoll that's sticking up, an erosional high that's sticking up through the glacier. That's a very resistant piece of rock. Sometimes rock is resistant because it's silicified. And my bet is the fact that rock outcrop there is still sticking up, the glaciers haven't scrubbed it away, may have something to do with the fact it's mineralized, right? So what did they do? Well, last summer, again, towards the end of the summer, they started to find pretty high-grade samples. Now, it was high-grade gold and copper. Totally different, okay? It is not Surebet stuff. This is, you got to erase Surebet for a bit. You got to think about what this might be. Well, look, it's not 100% sure yet. Some science has to be done, and that's being done right now. But it looks like this is a VMS, a volcanogenic massive sulfide system. Why is that important? Well, the host rocks, the kind of the setting for this mineralization is in the same rocks that you would see SK Creek and things like that, okay, which is a bit to the north. It's like due north of here. Well, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so we already know in the Golden Triangle there's multiple examples. In fact, there's one, I think, north of Stewart called Red Cliff that Decade Resources or Mountain Boy or somebody has, where we already know as an analog, there are VMS in this neighborhood. There's even suspicion that the Porter, Idaho deposit, which is near this Treasure Island, is also potentially a VMS. We also know over at Dolly Varden, okay, some of that is VMS. All right, so we have direct analogs in this area for VMS. Now these guys are going to go ahead and drill this thing. It's a bit daunting. You can see drilling a mountain sticking up through a glacier. That takes a few cojones, in my view. Good on them. There are times in life when you just got to get some answers. And I would normally say I'd like to see a little more science done and stuff here, but they've got a lot of samples. Go to the next slide that show that the mineralization is, there's multiple areas across this dome of rock that have pretty high grades. This is gold or sampling in gold equivalency. So it takes the copper, converts it to gold, and they presented it that way, which is fine. But it shows you that it's pretty broadly distributed through there. Now, what might they hit? I don't know. I mean, they might hit little pops and whistles of high grade. Maybe they hit the mothership. Maybe there's something really, really big here. Maybe they get enough information they can plan next year's drill program. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but it is a really exciting target. Certainly very high grades. They have gold assays up to I think over 20 grams per ton. And they got very high copper too. I think over, 10% in some places. So it's likely a VMS, perhaps SK-ish, and it could be big. Okay, so this first drill program, will they make a discovery? No guarantees, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's go to the next slide. This shows you some of the hand samples they collected when they did channels. Okay, so they did the saws. They usually make two saw marks, and then they break out the piece that's left, the little ridge of rock that's left. They break them out. You can see the chalcopyrite in there. Holy cow, that's solid chalcopyrite. That's like super high grade copper. You can see the gold grades. I think that's something over 20 grams. Can't read it. Whatever. And then the copper is very high in those two. I think up to 10% or something. Anyway. Gorgeous looking stuff. Texturally, it looks like VMS to me. So yeah, I can buy that. Okay, next slide. Okay. Sorry. I got to share 3D model. Sorry. We're going to share 3D model. We're going to go back to, hold on there. Let's see. Goliath or Surebet for a second. You can see that?
Not yet. It's coming up, hopefully. Let's see. Nothing yet, Quinton.
Nothing yet, huh? Let's try that. Hold on. Let's see. I think I must. I have to do entire screen. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't see here either. So.
Okay. Just a second. Come on. Do the thing. Oh, for Pete's sakes. What is it? Let's try window. Enter. Come on. No. This is bad, Tubby. Bad. I have two 3D
models. Hey, Quinton, if you're good, you do it live, man.
I saw it says your browser has blocked your screen. Blah, blah, blah. Why has my browser all of a sudden decided to be difficult? That's crazy. Well, guys, I don't have time to sit and fart around with it, so we're going to have to go back to the deck.
Oh, man. All right.
Unfortunately, I can't show you where those VG hits were with relation to previous drilling at Surebet, but safe to say it's deeper. Okay, it's definitely deeper. That was the main takeaway. Okay, unfortunately, I can't show it to you in 3D.
See, Quinton, that's why you're a great geologist. You can't share your screen. You're proving my theory there.
You just earned the love of many geologists. Tommy makes fun of geologists that can't figure out how to share their screen on the Zoom calls we do. He's like, oh,
Those are the best.
He must be a really good geologist. He can't share a screen at all. Oh my goodness. Okay, well let's go on to Sitka. Like Sitka gave an update really on their drilling up in the Yukon. They've recently consolidated the RC Gold project. I think they did a fantastic job there. They now have a commanding position over a massive reduced intrusion system. It's got lots of targets, lots of gold. And right now you can see towards the middle, maybe just slightly above the middle of this image on the right, it says area of current drilling. Okay, so they're drilling up closer to the original deposit there. This is the Blackjack deposit. And gosh, I have a 3D model. This is so annoying. Anyway, they've extended what will probably be the high grade part of the system that they're starting to see there. They're starting to see significant extensions. Go to the next slide. Okay, before we jump into that, I got to show you where we are in geology world. Okay, so this is a reduced intrusion gold system, hands down. It's got all the bells and whistles. And I put the red circle on the cross-sectional view over there on the left-hand side at about 4 or 5 kilometer depth. Okay, that's about where these things format. There's kind of they can be quasi porphyry like too down there, like you can get porphyric textures and stuff like that in the intrusions. I don't want to bore people, but that's generally where we're at. Okay, now the image over here on the right hand side is a plan view, and it simply shows the geochemical zonation outward from one of these reduced intrusions. Okay, the core area is usually gold with bismuth. Remember bismuth? I talked about it a minute ago. Tellurium happens to be another metal in the periodic table, and W, tungsten. Okay, well, in this news release, I'm going to point out that they also hit some arsenic-bearing veins too. Okay, so that means they have to be slightly out into the yellow. So I've drawn the little red circle there to show that they are right in the sweet spot where they have the entire gold bismuth tellurium part of the system, but they've also got still preserved cap of the arsenic gold part of the system too. I think that's fantastic because what it tells me is that what they're drilling at RC is probably a fully preserved reduced intrusive system. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, this is the best I can do to show you where they're at or what they're drilling here. Okay, so they basically come in underneath some previous holes. We've seen some of those holes not too long ago. I think 57 and 58. Hole 62 deep. It's one of the deeper tests. Lots of VG showing up down there towards the bottom. Now, might it continue? Yeah. Okay. I don't know why they cut it off here. Whatever. I don't know. But that's pretty encouraging. Okay. That's like 150 meters where there's abundant visible gold in places. And then they even hit some up at the top too. So there's some leakage coming all the way up the top. I really like this. This is starting to look and smell like a valley type discovery. Imagine finding an entire valley type discovery with absolutely no erosion. In other words, the whole thing's left down there. And people say, oh, that's kind of deep. Well, you know what? You could do bulk underground mining, no problem, in something like this, especially with these grades. Okay, so doesn't bother me one iota. This looks really encouraging. Can't wait for assays. Go to the next slide. One of the things they see with the gold is, they see the gold, little grains of gold in the quartz, which is the gray stuff. Okay, but then they have these little dark areas, darker minerals, I should say. Guess what? That's bismuth. So it's probably bismuthinite or something like that. But it's also tetradomite, which is a bismuth tellurium mineral. Okay, too much geology. Sorry. Anyway, when I see that, okay, I'm like, bam, man, that's a smoking gun there, buddy. That tells you you're in a reduced intrusion. There's virtually no other sulfide in here too. Like it's gold with a little bit of bismuth and tellurium, and that defines a reduced intrusive system in my book. Okay, so they have the right stuff. Go to the next slide. This simply shows that they have veins, in this case on the right, in the porphyritic textured intrusion. See the speckledy rock there? They have a quartz vein there, and guess what? There's gold with bismuth and tellurium right there in that vein. Boom. That's a smoking gun if I've ever seen it. Yes. Okay, but it gets better. Go to the next slide. Not only that, but out into the rock outside of the intrusion. This is out into the sedimentary rocks. They've got veins, and they found VG, bismuth, and tellurium out in those veins as well. Okay, so the orange flags that you see there, or tags that you see, those are places where they've seen VG and quartz veins, even out into the sedimentary rocks. This is a powerful system, guys. This thing, it looks like it's tightly bound inside of a sedimentary package, but this intrusion was just sitting there like huffing and puffing and trying to get the gold out, and it was pushing that gold out into the little veins and fractures around this. But this, man, when I see this, I think there's going to be something really high grade somewhere. Like they're onto it. They're onto it. Okay, this makes my skin just tingle. All right. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. And then this is an image showing some of the shallower mineralization, but interestingly, the veins here are dark. Okay, they've got actually arsenopyrite, which is an arsenic sulfide. It's not anything bad. Okay, I think it's just a little remnant of the cap, but basically it shows you that we are in the fully preserved, realm of an reduced intrusion. This is the stuff that it's just the remnants of what's left of that next zone, that next geochemical zone outward. So the rest, all the goodies should be preserved here, guys. Okay, go to the next slide. So I'm liking what I'm seeing there. Rackla had news out today, or this week rather. They've drilled at Hit. Okay, so remember they got Hit and Peak. Those are the two main targets they're testing this year. This drilling actually follows up on an area where they had some big long intervals of kind of half-gramish assays in some drill holes last year. Okay, but they're trying some drill holes in different angles and orientations, here as well. Okay, which is good. Okay, where's my money at? Well, I think Peak is going to be the winner. But anyway, this still looks very interesting. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, the rock that they're hitting looks a heck of a lot like what we see at Snowline. It is kind of a speckly granite, darkish colored granite diorite, and it's got lots of quartz vein. In fact, that you could put that box of rock right next to some of the rock out of Snowline, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Okay, so I do think they'll get some interesting numbers back. I think they have 2 holes, 6 and 7. We'll see what the assays say. Maybe they get onto the higher grade part of this system. I don't know, but it's a good start. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, this week, Tectonic put out a video. The link is up there at the top, in which they talk about the targeting that they're doing. It sounds like a broken record because I'm doing reduced intrusion. Rah, 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 rah. Guy won't stop. Okay, but now we're in the Tintina Belt, way over in Alaska. But again, a reduced intrusive type system, the Flat Gold Project, and this has got to be one of the biggest reduced intrusion systems I have ever seen in my life. In fact, it's probably the biggest, maybe, and it's got a lot of gold in it. Let's go to the next slide. Anyway, they put this video out, and I thought I just grabbed a few slides from it to show. Look, you guys watching the video can watch over the weekend, digest it better. But I want to show some of the new targets. They tested down around Chicken Mountain last year, and they got good results. They got several 100+ gram meter holes. But now they're going to test more this year. Okay, so they know darn good and well that there's gold over here on the right, the far right, at Golden Apex, Black Creek, and so forth. There's alluvial gold and also a few historic drill holes that hit gold up in that part of the world. Okay, so the company does have plans to test, step out and start testing some new things. and really show this project has a world-class feel to it. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, this slide shows the list of targets. So these are basically the different intrusion targets they have, and there's 6 of them. And it gives you some stats on the size of the thing. Remember, we're at a fairly high level, so we're still kind of in that gold arsenic realm. But as they drill down, they're seeing more bismuth and tellurium. Okay, so once again, we might have fully preserved systems here. You can see the size of the intrusions there. They're easily evident in the blue. Think of like the blue over here on the right as being the intrusions, and they're kind of all strung together like a chain, like a snake of intrusions. But they all have their own expression. And then look at the gold that's come off. That's the placer gold, the alluvial gold that's washed off of those deposits. There's a lot of gold that's come out of those things. Okay, each one of those has, except for the top one, which the data is lacking, but each one of the ones at the bottom there has a ton of gold that's been derived from it. All right, let's go to the next slide. I don't know what Kevin, we lost it.
I don't know. His internet's very.
I know his internet's dodgy. He needs more copper. Yeah. So, look, they start by talking about Chicken Mountain. Again, everybody can watch this video and watch it for in detail. But, what really kind of attracted me or, made me start thinking, wow, what is at Golden Apex and Black Creek and so forth. Okay. This is a big, big system. And to give you an impression of how big it is, look, 1.4 million ounces of placer gold that's come off of this area. That's not chicken feed. Okay, that's a big placer district. Go to the next slide. And here you can get a sense of the scale. Over on the right are 2 well-known deposits. We got Fort Knox. We got Snowline. Of course, Snowline's a very high-grade deposit. Smaller footprint, but man, it's got a lot of. That's a good deposit. Okay, but you can see the scale in cross section. Those are those 2 deposits. Then bring it over here to the left, and you can see right away that the drilling at Chicken Mountain has already defined a footprint that could easily be, as big or bigger than either of those. Grade's probably a little bit lower, but a gram per ton ain't bad. And when you got hundreds of millions of tons of it potentially, that could be a very good ending. All right. So we need to support this story. I love this story. And I think they're going to really demonstrate the world-class nature of it this year. That's my bet. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, this slide shows one of the targets up further north. Okay, so it's called the Addit/Happy target. Okay, and again, when you watch this thing in detail over the weekend, you can see exactly where it is. But I think it's kind of towards the north end. You can see Chicken Mountain listed down there at the bottom. But this is a cross structure that they now think is very important. So they're targeting kind of the structural zone because there are really good historic grades in this area. But they also think it's important for the overall location of this deposit. In other words, they might find a mothership inside of here somewhere. Okay, so very exciting target. Go to the next slide. And then here we can see the alpha bolt. So this is a fair ways to the north. What I like about this slide is that you can see the lay of the land with the alluvial gold, and you can see where it's coming from. Okay, so in other words, look at that Flat Creek, 650,000 ounces of gold is washed out of there. Where do we think it came from? Well, probably that colored area. Okay, like that's a no-brainer. Okay, so there's an intrusion at the headwater of that creek, and that thing is just puking out alluvial gold. Okay, do I think there could be a multi-million ounce deposit here? Yeah, anything that generates that much alluvial gold has some chutzpah, man. That's got something going for it. All right, so this is yet another area. We'll see some testing. Go to the next slide. And sorry, I guess that was it. I realized I was going way too over on slides, and I had to pull some right at the end before we got online. Okay, Fathom Nickel, jumping over to Gaukager Lake. Fathom Nickel has got out into the field. and they're doing a pretty aggressive field program right now, doing XRF on soils and such, and really trying to expand the footprint of the mineralization they've hit to date. Included with that is an effort to map outcrops and such, so that they can start to put together a geologic picture for this target. Go to the next slide. Okay, this is, we'll call it an early stage map. You can see where they've hit ore mineralization, the red there towards the left, the black are the drill holes. Okay, now if you look at that legend over here, you can see the yellow and the orange are a rock called gabbro. Okay, well, in this case, the mineralization seems to be closely tied to that gabbro. What is it? It's a magmatic rock. It's a very, what we call mafic rock, or even it can be ultramafic. And it originated probably from deep in the earth, and in a place like the mantle where we can derive a lot of nickel. Okay, so odds are that is probably our mothership intrusion. And you can see, yes, they've hit nickel over here, where the it's that yellow and orange phase of gabbro is tucked inside that green. But notice that the bulk of the gabbro is actually trending off to the northeast. Like the yellow and orange really opens up out there, and they've not drilled up there. Okay, but they've done XRF and whatnot across this. They're seeing high nickel, high chromium, and other metals. And I'm really hoping that this data that comes back starts to define some new targets that would also complement the EM targets that they define. I talked about those a couple of weeks ago. But, good boots on the ground work leads to discovery. These guys are doing a good job mapping and trying to and sorting out a picture of what's going on here. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, look, Red Pine has been a struggle. This company went through a catharsis, we'll call it. Unfortunately, the previous management appears to have falsified assay results over the past few years, which casts kind of a dark shadow on the whole story. The way I look at it, this project has had historic drilling going back many years, well before Red Pine and this previous management had it. So it doesn't make sense, that there's no gold there. There's gold there. It's just, I think it was overstated, but I'll let others figure that out. But now they're kind of back in the saddle, trying to get themselves out of the mud, and they've started to see some pretty good results. Okay, like this headline hole, 2.4 gram over 39 meters, great hole, almost 100 gram meters. The map that came with it, I'm sorry, guys. I clicked on that sucker every which way I could, and I couldn't get it to blow up. I don't know why, but look, it looks basically like it's kind of in the heart of the Surluga zone. What does it mean? I can't tell because I can't see the doggone thing. I'm going to hopefully see better maps come out of the company, but it's nice to see them at least get back in the saddle and get going again. And I hope they can pull themselves together. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, Nevada King announced the discovery of near-surface oxide gold, and this is east of the Atlanta pit this time. So in the image that you see over here on the right, we have the pit right along the left-hand margin of that slide, and then this orange sinuous thing that you see running through there is this East Ridge target. Okay, it's very steep country there, and the rocks step up. Okay, so they go boop, boop, as you go eastward. So this is the first step up, in my view. Okay, and that ledge, basically they drilled some holes, and they found that some of the mineralization they see down at the Atlanta pit has actually stepped up. So think of it like, it's stepped up, boom, like that, a little bit. Okay, that's great. That's great. And there's probably potential for some easy hanging, like a low hanging fruit here in terms of oxide gold. But I'm thinking about the next step over. But anyway, we'll get to that. I won't ruin the punchline. Go to the next slide. Okay, here's a cross sectional view. The orange band that you see going across here, that is the gold mineralization. If we were to continue this cross section down slope, we would be in the Atlanta pit. So basically, again, like I said, it looks like, it looks like this is stepped up. Okay, it's moved up above the Atlanta pit. It's the one, and you can see the red interval. That's the highlight, drill highlight there. It was a few tens of meters, about like a gram or so. But it's the one to the east I'm interested in. So go to the next slide. So if you look at this jumbo target, which is the big orange blob that I put the red arrow on, that's the one I'm quite interested, because if they hit there, like if they see this same mineralization that they found in East Ridge, jump over to the jumbo area, that could be big tonnage. Like that could be a lot of rock to add to the story. So we got to sit tight and we'll wait to see what happens. Now, I had one more story I need to talk about briefly. I didn't have slides of it, and to be blunt, at Crescat, we can't talk about financings and stuff like that. It's not our role, and it's not something we do. It's up to the companies to decide what they have to do, what's best for them. But what I can say with Lion One, it is a heartbreak to see him have to go back to the market like this and get the absolute crap beaten out of him. Looking back at the most recent news they've had over the past few weeks, they have demonstrated that they're seeing increased production. Okay, like if you look, they kind of got through the development rock into stopes, and now the grade's gone up. Grades are probably trending north of 5 grams now, hopefully moving up from there. The ounces are coming in with it. I think in June they did a little over, what was it, 1,500? 1,500 ounces. And the trend looks like it should go up to 2,000 plus ounces. Hopefully. Okay. The company has to get there, guys. There's no other way to put it. I can't harp on things, and I wish this was a better market too, really do. But it is what it is. I'm rooting for the team. Got good friends there, and I love to see them succeed. I know they want to get down to that rock, that high grade that they've hit in recent years. If you think back to 2020, when we hit the 500 zone, whatever it was, 12 or something meters of 50 or 60 grams, can't remember now. You think about that, and yeah, that's the kind of stuff you want to go down and start targeting as quick as possible. But to get there is a different story. You got to get down to it, right? It doesn't happen by magic. So look, I guess from my view, the company is on the right trend in terms of the increased tonnage through the plant, the increased grade that they're seeing, the increased resulting ounces that are coming out of the ground. And I hope to heck that this is the last time they ever have to raise money. But it is what it is.